Have you ever tried to actually train your Vapi AI voice assistant on website data, and maybe even in a programmatic way? What looks super simple in theory is actually pretty complex and comes along with its very own set of problems. So in today's video, I'm going to share with you some neat automations that allow you to dynamically pull website data into your Vapi voice AI assistant. I will also share with you all the challenges I faced and how I tackled them along the way. And to make sure that you won't need to spend the days on recreating the same kind of solution I have right here, I will give you the access to all of the automations I'm going to share with you, including prompts, including the whole structure, completely for free, directly inside of my resource hub. And in case you have never heard of my resource hub, it is basically a place where I'm sharing all of my templates, everything you see on my YouTube channel, prompts, resources whatsoever, completely for free, so that you can simply download them and follow me along on the screen while I'm actually showcasing them to you. And with that out of the way, let's dive right into it. Alright, so in the first place, I'm going to show you how it looks like if you would do this stuff manually, in case you have no idea. I have showcased that in a previous video, but just to make sure you're on the same page, you obviously need to have a Vapi account. If you don't, you need to create one, and you probably will have an assistant available inside of your dashboard. I don't have one right here, but it doesn't matter in that case because we are only wanted to check into the whole how you can get the information from the website stuff. So to do that, you basically head just over to the document section, which is located here on the left, and you will not see any documents and you basically need to upload something. So let's say you want to get the information from a website. What would you do? You'd obviously just copy the URL of the website. In my case, I'm taking my website or my agency website as an example. And then I head to a page called To the Web, which has an extraction tool that basically allows me to just type in a URL, validate myself that I'm not a robot, and I can just convert this whole thing to text. So in the next step, you will see that it basically outputs all of the text that is on that website available. So now I can basically go here, copy this whole part, save it into a text file, and then use the text file and upload it back into my Vapi dashboard right within the uploads. Obviously, this is a very manual process that needs to be done for every URL, and then you need to reconnect this whole thing manually to each of the assistants. And as you can imagine, it is a lot of work that should be automated and not be done manually. So in the past couple of days, I would say, probably more than just days, I was sitting down and actually creating a logic that allows me to dynamically upload those documents to an assistant and connect them at the same time. So in order to make this whole thing dynamic, I built out a custom make.com workflow. And if you have no idea what make.com is, it is basically a workflow automation tool that allows you to connect different services together so that they can talk to each other. You can imagine it like one event happens and then you do this, this, and this, and this afterwards. So it is very straightforward. However, it can become very complex, and this is one of those complex cases, but no worries. All of the stuff you see now is inside of my resource hub, available for you to download. So you can literally just use it or follow me along on the screen if you want to get a better understanding of it. So to actually get that information, you obviously need to fetch it from our resource hub. You need to import it into make.com. To do that, you basically head over here to scenarios. You click on the button up right here then for creating a scenario. And then you head down here to the three dots, you click on import blueprint. You import the blueprint, you download it from the resource hub, and then this whole thing will appear. So it looks very complex, and it kinda is, but I'm gonna break it down for you. And there are only three main things that you need to adjust, which is still like very easy to do. But before I actually show you the exact configuration, there's one more thing we need to do. If you head into our resource hub, you will find a file that you can copy that is called Vapi website crawler, and it only has 3 columns for file URL, file ID, and renew every. So I'm gonna explain you all of them in a moment, but for now, once you have fetched that into your account, you are good to go. All you need to do then is basically head back into the scenario that you imported, and you click here on the Google integration. Once you're on the Google integration, you simply select the spreadsheet that you copied from within your account right here, and you don't need to adjust anything else. You basically just leave that whole thing and you click only on OK. This is step number 1. The second thing you need to do is you need to basically go to variables, and inside of the variables, you can add your very own Vapi API key. So I have it already added, so I'm not going to show you, but it's literally just an input field where you put the stuff in. And to get the API key, what you do is you head to the Vapi dashboard, you click down here on your name, you go to API keys, and within here you will find your private API key. This is the key that you then basically add into the second step here with the variables. So you'll see a field for that one. Once you have done that, you are basically ready to go in the very basic version, which is anyways the one I'm going to show you. So all you do is you basically save this thing, and you are ready with that part for now. So after that, you head over to your custom Google Sheet that you created, and now we are coming to the actual information that you would like to collect from the website. Obviously, during building that, I was thinking many times of including a dynamic way of fetching all of the URLs of that website and then basically adding them to it. But this can lead to a lot of unwanted stuff inside of the resources or inside of the brain of the assistant, let's call it like that, with stuff that we don't need at all. So that's why I just created something like a whitelist where I basically list URLs that I definitely want to have inside of my knowledge base so that the AI can access it. And this is the structure I came up with, and it's very basic. So for file URL, you literally just paste in the URL that you would like to scrape, so the information that you would like to get from that specific URL. And let's, in my case, take, for example, the main page of our agency website. Just gonna paste this one here. And let's do the same with AI services, for example. So I copy this one as well, and I paste it right below, but right here. And file ID we can leave empty for now, we don't need it. And renew every is basically a value that allows us to recrawl the websites and update them inside of Vapi. So we are going to come to that in a moment, but today's Thursday, so all I'm going to do is I basically just expect it to be triggered today. So which means now, in case the automation would run, it would basically renew the files today. So we're gonna go into that as well once we have configured everything. But now we simply head back into the actual website or into the scenario. And if everything should be configured, we are ready to go. Actually, I can also show you now that it's going to work from within the document section. So if we head to documents, you can see there are no documents. I'm just going to refresh the page and you will see there are no documents. And now if I head back into the actual automation and I run this whole thing, so I basically just click on run once, and I run, and you will see it will probably run until here. And it doesn't go further than that because that part is separate, and I'm gonna explain you that in a moment. But now it ran basically through, and I should also get a 200 here and a 200 here. You don't need to check that, but that basically means for me that the files have been uploaded. And if I now head back into my Vapi AI dashboard and I basically refresh that page, you will now see that there are two files that are basically from that pages that I uploaded. You can see andycreditors.com and you can see andycreditors.com AI services, which is nothing else than the slug of the website that I basically added, right? So that works well. This pop-up is annoying, but that works well. You can see the files are in, and we can now basically head into the assistants and connect them to the assistant that we would like. So let me just quickly create one. Let's just take customer support. I'm gonna name her Lisa. I'm gonna create Lisa. And now within here, you can basically go in the knowledge base and you can select those files. So there is a problem if you want to run this automation and combination with Vapi, and that is what I'm going to show you now. So let's, for example, like the way I built this automation is that every day this script runs and will basically check inside of the Google Sheet, is there any document that we need to renew today, which depends on the day that is added here. And if it finds some, it will basically take the URL, it will run through this whole workflow to basically get the information from the URL, validate it, and then pack it into a file and upload that file to Vapi. So the issue with Vapi is that Vapi doesn't have an endpoint of updating a file, which means the IDs will change all the time if you do that. Because what I did here is I basically built the logic in a way that we don't have duplicates on the site all the time. So we have one action that basically deletes the file that we previously uploaded, and once it is deleted, we basically create a new one with the new website content that is on that website, right, in case it has changed. And then this file is uploaded again to the Vapi dashboard. While that works great and it basically doesn't cause any duplicates, the ID will be different, and therefore the ID or the knowledge that is added to the actual assistant will not be there anymore. So obviously what that would mean is that every time that runs, you basically have to go back into the assistant and update that information, and that is a bit tedious. So I basically overcame that by creating some additional logic that is a combination out of what I have inside the Google Sheet and the make.com workflow. So as you can see here, we are also storing the file ID, which we then basically use to delete the previous file, and we basically create a new one, and then we update that file ID with a new one. So we always know, okay, this is the latest file ID to that URL that we basically fetched. This is more an informative thing for you, but now if we actually want to update that whole thing to the assistant, there is another part of the scenario that I configured right here, and by default, if you have followed the instructions so far, you will only upload the files and it will not be connected to any kind of assistant. So if that is what you want and you just want to get the files inside of Vapi, you're good. You literally just save it and you activate it right here, and it will schedule it. You can then choose what kind of days you want to fire this whole thing and basically recrawl the information that is on the website. But obviously, if you would like to automate your stuff even further and you don't even want to connect or deal with connecting the stuff to the assistant, which should have access to those kind of files, there is another part of the scenario that I built out for you, which is also a bit more complex. But again, I just made it as simple as possible so that you need to adjust only one specific thing, which is this variable right here called assistant ID. So all you would do is you would click on assistant ID and you have an empty field here, which is variable value. So what we do is you basically go over to the assistant that you would like to add, and I'm gonna copy this assistant ID right here, and I head back to my make.com scenario, I paste it, and I click OK. So, and this is literally all I had to do. So now basically all of the files, whenever they are crawled and uploaded, they will be again added to that assistant right here. Now, while this works, I'm gonna show you now that it actually works well in the first place. So all I'm going to do is I click on run once, we basically have that whole process running through for all of the URLs that we have inside of our Google Sheet right here. And once that is through, you will see that it also updates the assistant dynamically. And if we are now heading back into our Vapi dashboard, into the assistant, and I'm going to refresh this whole page because it doesn't load it dynamically as of now, you will see that the files are added and the assistant has basically access to it. So this is awesome, but I need to warn you, there are a couple of things that you need to keep in mind when using this logic, because this logic is built in a specific way so that it is actually compatible with what Vapi wants, because Vapi is very precise and specific with the information that it requests during an update of an assistant. So there are two things that I have in mind. Number one is that if you are changing the dates, let's say you have a massive list of URLs in here and you have one's Thursday and then you have one on a Tuesday, you can only add the information from one specific day that you crawled stuff to that assistant, and the other one is basically overwritten the next time this day comes. Vapi updates the assistant in a way that it overwrites everything that was in there before. So to explain it that a little bit better, we simply head over to the Vapi documentation via the docs link up here, and right here we go to API reference and we scroll down here to update assistant. And if we're looking inside of the body here, we will come at some point to this knowledge base section right here. And if I now add a field ID here, you can see on the right, it basically defines it. And update in that case means that literally all of the previous field IDs are overwritten, which means every time we fetch that information, basically we overwrite all of the previous files that are added to the assistant. So that again limits you to have only those dynamic files inside of that assistant available. Otherwise, you would need to build an extra logic that can also get access to those other files. You can do this as well by just listing them inside of the Google Sheet and just having an extra logic that fetches it from here and then basically appends it all at the end. I know it is more complex than you might expect if you want to customize it, but it is just the way on the nature of how Vapi is built that you need to follow their kind of notations if it comes to APIs. So yeah, the other thing I basically also mentioned, which is all of the knowledge base will be overwritten once this update ran through, right? So you have first of all the limitation with those specific dates. So if you have a date when it is updating it automatically, it will basically overwrite every other one that is not on the same day and that basically has been added manually in the backend. So you need to keep this in mind. Now, obviously, in most cases, I even assume that this is probably more than sufficient for most people that want to train dynamic information based on the website. So in that case, you can literally just import the scenario from our resource hub, you add your API key, you adjust your Google Sheet right here, and you also add your assistant if you would like to update it dynamically. And if you don't want to have them constantly updated, let's say you just want to import this whole thing all you do is you don't schedule it, you literally just run it once, and it will basically import those files from the website. And again, this is just awesome because you can have it like an initial import of the files, let's say. So whenever you have a website, you simply define them inside of your Google Sheet that you connected, and then you run the scenario once, and all of those files are then basically uploaded directly into the documents of Vapi. So again, it still saves you tons of time by just doing that whole process manually by simply clicking on that scenario once. And of course, if you are using it in a simple way, and you say this is definitely sufficient, you don't mind having not the possibility of uploading the documents dynamically if you were to have them constantly updated and you really want to have always the latest information on the website in the assistant, then you can use the scenario that I built here for you out of the box. You can literally just activate it and then use the assistant ID, API key and the Google Sheet to have that whole thing running and have basically an assistant that always has access to the latest information from that website. So that's all for the visual part. There's not much more to this. These two parts are really the only things you need for doing that. But obviously, in case you want to customize that logic and actually build something out that suits your needs better than what I did right here, you can just take a look at it, maybe get a better feeling for it, because uploading the files to Vapi is a bit more complex because they use Supabase, which I'm not going to go into detail right now, but you will see it inside of the documentation. When you scroll down here to files, you will see that you can upload a file, get a file, list a file, and delete it. So there's no update possibility. And uploading a file requires quite a bit of work, even in make.com. So this is something you just need to keep in mind. You can definitely build this thing out as well in a custom solution by just using their kind of endpoints right here. But I just need to mention you need to be precise with what you do, and if you want to update the assistant dynamically with those files, keep in mind that all of the previous files will be overwritten. So that's all I got for you from that point. Obviously, in case you need help with any of those things, definitely reach out to us through our website or through my links that are inside of the channel description, and I'm more than happy to get you started with those stuff as well in case you want to build out something really, really great. Thanks for watching. I'm really, really excited that you are still here and actually watching those things. That means a lot to me. If there's anything else you would like me to cover for you, simply drop me a message down below in the comments. I'm looking forward to it. And until next time, thanks for watching. Take care.